Hey guys, Stay Patient here, and welcome to this week's edition of the Trophy Hunters update. Now, you may notice everything's looking a little bit different. I'm trying out I'm kind of in the middle of sorting out my room to create a bit of a better recording environment. Feels a bit empty in here at the moment. You may notice part of my L-shaped sofa is gone, and the games are now behind me. I haven't put them there just to show off. Honest. I'm kind of just creating more space for the recording, just to make things easier. Got a table here now, thankfully. It's a bit makeshift. This isn't how it's going to end up exactly, but I'm waiting for some more stuff to get delivered. Trying out my Blue Yeti for the first time, new mic. I'm still waiting for the pop filters, so the sound might not be perfect, and of course I'm getting used to the settings on it and everything, so hopefully it sounds okay. I'd love to get some feedback on it. I'm hoping to sort of create a better sound than the mic I was using, which, as you know, was like a little clip-on thing that just clipped onto my shirt. But yeah, we're back to have a look at the most recent releases, some of the upcoming games. There's not a huge amount to talk about today, but obviously we're here on PSN Profiles as usual. So if we go to our games list, now the same thing happened this week as last week, where on the Saturday there was hardly any games to talk about. In fact, it came up to around about here, some of these Japanese games. Now, last week we got up to iZombie, so we only had a few sort of random sort of non-platinum games, a couple of Japanese platinums here, Vita games and stuff like that, but there wasn't really a lot to discuss, and I was thinking hopefully the same thing happens again and loads of new games get added to the site on Sunday today, and that has happened. One of the games obviously that I think the trophies had been announced for it, but that's Final Fantasy 15 here. So we're going to take a look at that. They might have been announced last week. I actually forgot to look, but we can take a look through those and give you guys an idea of what's required for that platinum. Interestingly enough, you'll notice two lists here. So it does have a stacking trophy list, which is very strange for any AAA title of this kind of magnitude, especially Final Fantasy games. I don't know if there's been a Final Fantasy with stacking regional trophies before. So that's going to be interesting, finding out which one it is. It might be maybe sort of the Japanese one and the rest of the world stacks, or it could be the American one and the European one, or whatever the case may be. But if we just scroll back down, there was a couple of games actually I meant to sort of go back to. The first one was Destroy All Humans. This is one that we noticed on the list a few weeks ago. Destroy All Humans. Okay, so we've got two games here. They're both from the PS2 generation, obviously. One of them has been released, and the other one is on its way soon, I think. Now, the first one, the reason I wanted to take a look at it is because... what am I looking for here? PlayStationTrophies.org. I'm guessing most of you use this site already, but... Destroy All Humans. Sorry, I've been so busy all day, like lugging furniture around. I'm kind of quite tired now, and it's taken my brain a bit longer than usual to kind of chug along and remind me what we're looking at here. But yeah, you'll see Destroy All Humans has got some votes on the voting threads for, difficulty and time requirement. So difficulty here, it seems pretty unanimous that it's about a 2 out of 10. A couple people voting higher, but that's always going to be the case. Everyone's skill level varies. It could be that the people who've, voted a 2, maybe they're more familiar with it from the PS2 generation. Maybe they played it back then. But I think, when you've got 6 people voting like that and only a couple voting higher, then you can probably say it's like a 2 or 3. What are they saying here? Using cheats. Oh, yeah. I remember now. It's a game with lots of cheats that you can use, and yeah, it can be higher. Terminator here, he's the guide team lead, so he's involved in sorting out all the trophy guides and everything. Not creating them necessarily. He does do a few, but he's a very handy guy who does a lot of work for the site. But T was saying that it can be a lot higher, if you're not used to the game and you're not using cheats or whatever. But I think, everyone's going to use cheats. At least if you struggle with the game, then you can turn them on. The time requirement, I think, was quite low as well. It was like a 10 to 15... Oh, sorry, we're on the wrong... here we go. Yeah, 11 to 15 hours. Some people slightly higher, some people slightly lower. This is a really short and easy platinum. I haven't obtained it yet, but I've done the requirements on PS2. Beat the story in 5 to 6 hours, and then there's some cleanup and stuff like that. So yeah, it looks like around a 10 plus hours. So I wanted to come back to this one because quite often, we discuss a lot of games on this show, and then I do remember to come back to some of them, especially if they're still on the list the following week. So, they may have not been played by anyone, but then the next week they're still at the bottom of the list, and it reminds me to kind of go back and discuss them. And they might have been played by more people by then. They might have been released and had a bit of feedback. But with some games, it takes them a long time to get released. Or there's just so many games the following week that they get pushed off the, the most recent releases list on PSN Profile. So it can be easy to forget to go back to them. So I had a look earlier on and just kind of reminded myself of some of the stuff we discussed in previous videos. If you guys are particularly interested in going back and talking about something that I have forgotten to mention again, then just let me know in the in the comments. But yeah, this is one that definitely looks like pretty straightforward platinum. It's not as quick as some of those that we've been discussing recently. A lot of them are like an hour or two long, but there's been loads this year that are super fast, super easy. But this looks like a laugh. Obviously, check out some gameplay. It's one of those games we're not going to look at like a trailer or anything because it's quite an old game now and it's going to look ropey by today's standards because it's a PS2 title. But for a lot of you it'll be quite nostalgic. I remember I didn't actually play it on PS2, but I do remember it coming out. It was around the time of the Mars Attacks movie, and I remember enjoying that film. It was crazy, like stupid B movie really. But not really a lot else to say about it. I think it was kind of based on the Mars Attacks movie, sort of like an homage to it. It was around about the same kind of time, I think. But yeah, that was one of them. The other one I wanted to mention actually was something that was brought out in one of the forum threads, and I'm not sure. Sometimes this forum is quite interesting. Okay, so it's been pushed off the list here, but there was a forum thread talking about the PS2 games that are available, a bit like Kill All Humans or whatever, or Destroy All Humans that we just talked about. It's about all the PS2 games that have been brought across to PS4 and had trophies added to them, and there's quite a lot recently. We've had the Dark Cloud games and Final Fantasy VII, although that's PS1, wasn't it? But lots of different bits and pieces here and there, like Bully, for instance. But one of them that's apparently coming to PS4 soon is Red Faction 1 and 2. And that's pretty cool. Some of you, you won't care about that. Maybe you've only played the PS3 Red Faction games. You've got Guerrilla and Armageddon. They were both pretty cool, but they weren't groundbreaking. But for those of you who remember the PS2 generation of Red Faction games, you'll know that they were actually groundbreaking at the time. They kind of pushed gaming forward with their destruction mechanics and physics. A lot of games are known for that, for kind of creating a destruction model that a lot of other games then follow, and that kind of revolutionizes the genre or just destruction in general in video games. And the first two Red Faction games were those types of games. And they were really fun. They had some cool multiplayer. It wasn't online at the time. Maybe it was on PC, but on PS2, I just remember playing against my brother. There was a map, I remember actually. It was like a big open sort of desert area. And then each end you had a very similar building with multiple floors and open walls and stuff. And you'd literally one would start at each end, and it was just like a sniper map. And you'd kind of snipe each other back and forward, or you try and somehow sneak across to their side of the map. It was just a really fun game. Some of the weapons in it were a lot of fun. And I'm really happy to hear that it's coming to PS4. So you've got Red Faction 1 and 2. I'm not sure if it's going to be a double pack or like 2 separate releases on the PSN store or what, but that's good news. I mean, there's no trophies for it yet or anything like that, but to those of you who are kind of a bit older like I am, although you don't really need to be that old to remember PS2, but you know what I mean. Those of you who have nostalgic memories of it will probably be quite excited about that, just like me. Anyway, let's just have a look through here and remind ourselves. We've had, do you remember Space Overlords? We watched a trailer of that last week. It was where you land on these small planets and you just smash up buildings basically, and there's some kind of, what is it, not crafting, but like building modes where you can build your own planet and then go down and smash it up, and it looks completely pointless. It looks like a real grind, but it does look very easy. I happened to notice this week that, where is it? Space Overlords, here you go. That's been added on Vita as well. So I'm not sure if it's cross-buy. In fact, you know what? We'll have a look. PlayStation Store. Oh, bad spelling there. It's nice having my keyboard right here. I always sort of have it on my lap usually, so it's going to be very handy having a table or a desk. Okay. Overlords. Space Overlords. Let's have a look. Maybe it's not out yet, or maybe it's just a US only game. Yeah, okay, let's try am I signed in? Yeah, let's sign out. And then it will let me bring up the US store. Because I'd like to find out if this is cross-buy, you know? Because if it is, then it's going to be, I'm guessing it's going to be quite good value if it is cross-buy, because it's not going to be one of those super expensive games. Oh, man. Yeah, okay, it's not out yet. Sorry to waste your time, guys. But I mean, it's not something that I think many people are going to play. It's a long trophy set, as we said last week, or it looks to be a long one. And unless you've played like every other easy platinum and you're desperately trying to find something that you can complete, then I don't think it's going to have a huge number of players. Okay, so where did we get to last week? We got up to, yeah, around here. So we had the NBA 2K experience, or VR experience, iZombie, Lethal League. Yeah, these are all kind of non-platinum games. I had a look at Alchemic Jousts, and because it's not out yet, I couldn't really find anything on it. Yeah, to be honest, I couldn't really even find out what kind of game it was, I don't think. I'm sorry, I'm not quite as well prepared today as I usually am, because like I say, I generally spend all day Sunday researching and watching trailers and reading sort of feedback and looking for guides on Steam and all things like that. But today, as I mentioned before, I've been kind of lugging furniture around and sort of redoing my room. So I wanted to get that done in time for, in time for the recording. Okay, so we have got a trailer here. I would normally download these types of trailers. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but okay, it's basically tower defense, almost like a Plants vs. Zombies style thing, quite cutesy. I mean, it looks like it's sort of creatures or whatever they are going in both directions, so you need to send yours out and then the enemy gets sent to you as well. All right, so basic kind of, I guess it's base defense rather than tower defense, isn't it? Yeah, okay. There's not really, I did have a look for feedback. Obviously it's not out yet, so there's not going to be much to go on when it comes to trophies. We could, okay, it's loading now. Could have a look here, finish the campaign, discover all the skills, gain all easy and hard stars, level up, generate 85 or more per second of a single resource during a joust. Okay, so just a speed-based thing, I guess. A lot of these are just going to be using terms that aren't going to make sense until we play the game. Create 5,000 elementals during your playtime. Kill 5,000 as well. It's quite a long list. What are these gold ones? Usually, are they in order of, bronze, silver, gold. Okay, so this will usually give us an idea as to how long or hard it is. Win a hard combat elite joust without losing any health on your tower. 3 similar trophies there. Hit 25 times or more on an attack elite joust. See, all this stuff doesn't really make much sense. But I suppose it's one of those games that you might be able to play against people. So maybe if you've got 2 PS4s or a friend, you can download your game on both and earn the trophies that way if it has got some kind of multiplayer. But we'll have to, come back to that one. I'm going to take a note of that because I've started kind of writing down any games I do want to come back to once they have released. There was that other game. I had a look at Black and White Bushido again. Do you remember we talked about that about 2 or 3 weeks ago? And that's still not been released, which is insane. So I've kept note of that one as well, because that looks like it could be a very easy platinum, but we'll have to come back to that. Like I said, there's not a huge amount this week. We've got quite a few sort of non-platinum games, which we don't really focus on unless they look really fun. Knob Switch. Yeah. I haven't looked into that. It's a Vita game. Not many people have a Vita, and it doesn't have a plat. So I try and sort of cater for as many people as possible by keeping it as mainstream as possible. I say mainstream. By that, I mean games that most people have access to. We actually look at a lot of, off the wall, outside the box titles, that aren't mainstream, but, they're all games that the majority of you are going to be at least able to get hold of if you do want to play it after we've talked about it. Rolling Bob was the first one that I actually took a look at. This looks kind of interesting. Again, I don't have a trailer, I'm afraid. I'm going to just carry on talking because it's going to be loading for a while. Check out the trailer for it. It's not like an incredible looking game, but basically it's a kind of a 2D platformer, but you've got this, I guess Bob, he's called, this kind of, it's some kind of ball, that rolls. And it's almost like an infinite runner. But this thing just carries on rolling in whichever direction it's facing. And there are pitfalls. Hey, it's loaded. Cool. There's pitfalls, and then there's spikes, and there's, all the typical kind of obstacles you get in a 2D platformer. But you have a pen, and you have to draw lines and bridges and ramps and sort of barriers and stuff. You just basically draw a line to either redirect Bob or allow him to go over a gap, or whatever. So in the trailer you had maybe like a spinning spike or something, so you had to draw a line over that, but then drawing the line would cause you to launch towards another obstacle, so you'd have to quickly draw another line to block him, and then underneath he might fall down a hole, so you draw another one to catch him, and all this kind of stuff. And it looks kind of interesting. It's the kind of game that will appeal to some of you, I'm sure. And the trophies looked fairly straightforward depending on how difficult the game is. When I say straightforward, I don't mean easy necessarily. I just mean that they look like they're simple enough to wrap your head around, the requirements. Because some games, they have all sorts of convoluted, like dozens and dozens of completely different trophies, and you don't really know what they require, and you're constantly having to look at the trophy list or a guide or whatever just to remind yourself what you need to be working on throughout your playthrough. But then other games have a nice kind of just grouped up trophies, and you can read it through and straight away you know what's required of you. And that's kind of one of these. There's not too many varied trophies. So you've got start the first level of the 3 worlds, obtain all the cores, and to be honest, actually, a lot of these are kind of bitty trophies that involve doing something once or maybe a few times. But then if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll have the culmination of basically all these trophies at the bottom, will automatically pop the rest of the trophies along the way. So for instance, obtain 5 stars at all levels of the game. And there's like a whole bunch of other trophies for obtaining like 3 stars and 4 stars and then 5 stars in certain missions or certain groups of missions. So as soon as you know that you've got to get 5 stars in all of them, you can pretty much ignore a lot of the other trophies. And completing the game, you've got to save all the bits in the game. I'm guessing these are some kind of collectibles or AI characters that you have to help out. And again, that will pop a bunch of the other trophies along the way. So it looks like a fairly straightforward platinum to understand, at least, but it remains to be seen how easy it is to actually earn. But it looks kind of interesting. It might be worth your time taking a look at. So now we get up to Final Fantasy. You know what? We might actually come back to that because that's the big game this week. I've actually got my copy already. I received it yesterday on Saturday. And as I keep saying to you guys, simplygames.com are a great place to buy games in the UK. I always get the games early, quite often like 4 or 5 days early. I mean, the game's out on Tuesday, Final Fantasy 15, and I received it on Saturday, and that's actually quite late compared to their usual delivery times. I often get it on the Thursday or Friday the week before. Now, I've not had a chance to try it yet. I've had a lot of work on, but I am almost caught up, so I'm going to give it a go tomorrow, and hopefully, you know, it might be worth me doing a bit of a first impression video or something like that. Or if you just want to post a comment on this video and ask me how I'm getting on or what I think of it, then obviously I can give you some feedback and some of my impressions. But if we sort of, if we skip over it. Oh, the other thing I was saying, sorry, I mentioned about Simply Games. I don't, I've got no affiliation with them, by the way, but not only do they get games to you early, but I actually got Final Fantasy 15 for £32.99. That's UK currency, GBP, you know. So £32.99. And those of you from the UK will know how cheap that is. You know, generally it's like 40 quid, and even that's lower than recommended retail price. So to put that in perspective to those of you in America, although I suppose there's not really much point, is there? Because I don't know if they ship to America, but yeah, American games are generally $60 on release, aren't they? UK games are, I think the recommended retail price is £50. Games are never 50. They're usually like between 40 and 45, you know, if you go to a typical high street store. If you get it on release for like £38, that's usually quite a good deal. But, you know, Final Fantasy 15, during E3, I pre-ordered it and they had some offers on for like Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, and Final Fantasy 15, a bunch of other games they had on offer for £32.99, which is an insane price. And if you ask me, we've had obviously Black Friday 2 days ago, and it's still kind of going on the sales. A lot of you will agree, especially in the UK, that we haven't really had a great Black Friday. I have bought a ton of games, but that's just me. I buy games left, right, and centre. But like, it's not been an incredible group of deals or anything like that, mostly because the majority of games that are on offer that people want have only really just come out. So there have been some quite good deals on like slightly older games from a few months ago, but for the most part, stuff's been kind of cheaper, but not like amazingly cheap. So I would say to you guys, the best time of year to pre-order or buy games is during E3, especially from places like Simply Games, who do specific E3 based deals. So they do pre-orders for all the big games that have been discussed during E3 for way cheaper. And Final Fantasy 15 was one of them. So next year during E3, I'm going to do a video sort of pointing out the best deals and prices and stuff. But keep your eye out, because it's better than Black Friday. I haven't seen anywhere that's selling, you know, the games that were for sale for $32.99 during E3. Those haven't been cheaper anywhere during Black Friday. I haven't found them cheaper anywhere. So, you know, it just goes to show it does pay off to kind of jump on those pre-order deals when they're up and running. But yeah, let's just have a scan through these here. So we've got Destroy All Humans from earlier. That's the second game, obviously. It's not out yet. But I'm guessing it will be probably similar kind of difficulty level as the first game. And then we've got Rock and Racing Off-Road DX. I'm assuming, I haven't looked into it because it's got no platinum and it doesn't really interest me. But we talked recently about Grand Prix Rock and Racing. Now, that's one of the games that showed up on part 3 of the fastest and easiest PS4 Platinums list that I put together, the top 10. I think it was part 3 or part 2. And I'm guessing, this has got a very similar title, so I'm guessing it's a follow-up, and it's a real shame it doesn't have a platinum, because the first one did. It might be completely unrelated, and someone out there may know. Ghosty, you might know. Ghosty often sort of answers questions for me that I haven't had a chance to research before, making the video. But it'd be interesting to find out, just out of pure curiosity, to be honest. We've got A King's Tale Final Fantasy 15. Now, this was something... I kept seeing this advertised, and I didn't realise it was a game. In fact, it is a game. No, I have looked through the trophies. We've got things like defeating so many enemies and typical trophies. I did wonder if it might have been a movie that you watch, a bit like on, what was it, Kingdom Hearts 1.5, I think it was, where you had a movie that kind of summarised the story between two of the games that were bundled on the disc. And you actually got trophies for watching that movie. I wondered if it was something like that. I really haven't looked into Final Fantasy 15 much at all. I played episode Dusky ages ago, and since then, I wasn't that impressed by the demo, to be honest. But since then, I've seen more footage. Like, I haven't looked too much into it because I don't want to spoil anything. But, I've seen bits and pieces where they're using magic and stuff, and it looks like there's a bit more depth than episode Dusky kind of hinted at. But I never really looked into A King's Tale, and I'm guessing it's some kind of add-on or like spin-off story that you get with the game, maybe. But obviously it's not got a platinum, but it's nice that it has got some trophies added. I tell you what, guys, I'm tired out. Here's another game I'm going to look at. First of all, though, we'll mention Crystal Rift and How We Saw. Now, How We Saw is following the kind of tradition of a lot of the VR games, and it's giving us 2 trophy sets. I'm guessing, and once again, it's like UK or, Europe and the US, and obviously the rest of the world will share a trophy set with one of those 2, probably the US. But yeah, it's kind of odd. There's a lot of VR games that are doing this. You've got things like Job Simulator and Robinson, The Journey, and just loads of them are all kind of doubling up on the Platinum trophy set. But they're all very expensive, of course, so it's difficult to get hold of both copies. This one, though, How We Saw, I was going to share a trailer for this, but it's only like 30 seconds long, and it wasn't really particularly interesting. But it's basically a mixture of Eagle Flight, which is another VR game, and what was it called? Tearaway. It's got a very Tearaway-esque visual style. And the other game was Flower. It's very much like Flower, because you basically play a bird that kind of swoops around a bit like Eagle Flight, but you're flying over sections of land, and you're kind of bringing those areas to life, and like growing plants and grass and all that kind of thing. Very much like Flower. If you've played Flower, you'll know that you play as a petal, and you sort of swoop around, activating other flowers, and their petals get added to your chain, and then you kind of fly over the environment, lighting up the grass and kind of bringing all the plant life to life, reviving the area. And this looks kind of similar to that, but with a bird, and that's where the similarity to Eagle Flight comes in. But it's got, like I say, it's got a very cool kind of cut-out paper-esque style. So if you've played Tearaway, you'll know that the entire environment is made up of like torn up paper. Obviously, it's digitally created. It's made to look that way, but it's very sort of, it genuinely looks like everything, even the enemies, is like all origami shapes put together. So this has got a very similar style, and it looks kind of interesting, kind of cool. I know that a lot of the reviewers have said that Eagle Flight is one of the best VR experiences, one of the most genuine ones that are like nice and easy to get into. You kind of control your flight with your head. And they said it's a real nice feel for it. It's the game that suits VR the most. So hopefully this kind of follows suit. And it's nice to see that it's got a platinum as well. So it's quite interesting as well. The trophy set is another trophy set that's very simple to kind of get your head around. Very simple indeed. In fact, you've basically got 2 groups of trophies and then 1 or 2 sort of extra ones at the end. So you've got a whole list here for completing all the levels and then the game. And then as you can see here, you've got other trophies for painting each of the levels. And I'm guessing like I said before, it's kind of like Flower, where you're flying around, painting the area or kind of bringing it to life. So you've got to do that for all the different levels. And then you've literally just got these two at the end. Reach any level's outer limit. So I guess that's just fly in one direction for a while. And the other one is a gold one. Hold 4 keybirds. Keybirds simultaneous. Yeah, hold 4 keybirds simultaneously. And it does say hold all birds. So I'm guessing there are only 4 in the game. Now, this could be super easy or it could be really difficult. Without knowing what's required to sort of accomplish this, then it's very difficult to ascertain, what it's going to be like. But my guess is this is probably going to be an easy trophy set. But again, it's VR. I'm guessing it's VR only as well. So unfortunately, it's not going to be something that all of you are going to be able to play. It's quite a lot of money to spend on something if you're just in it for the trophies. Obviously, I was really excited for VR, and so I picked up my unit on day one. But £350 or however much it is in the US is a lot if you're just interested in earning some easy platinums. There's plenty of other easy games that don't require VR. Crystal Rift. This is a dungeon crawling game, but it's very rigid. It's basically like a maze crawler as well. So you're making your way through these mazes. You've got spikes that come out of the ceiling or out of the ground, and you've got holes and stuff. It's basically like you tend to move one block at a time. So it's VR, you're playing it in VR, which is probably its only saving grace. But it doesn't look great. I watched someone's gameplay on YouTube, and a lot of the comments were saying, basically trashing it. So I don't know, it might be alright, but it certainly doesn't look like a PS4 game. It looks very basic and old fashioned. But if you look at the trophies here, wow. Make it to the end of the 24th dungeon. So it looks like there's 24 dungeons. I don't know why they couldn't have just put the number there, because that looks very clunky, doesn't it, having it written out like that. But you've got to make it to the end of all 24. You've got to finish it on hard. So I'm guessing if you got to the end of each one on hard, you'd get all those trophies. Oh, and Nightmare. I'm not sure really what the difference will be with with the difficulties. There are some enemies in it, and again, it was very clunky. You'd walk towards them and hit them with a stick or sword or whatever. But it might be that they one hit kill you. Maybe nightmare mode. Maybe you've only got one life. I don't know. Walk more than 10,000 steps. Kill 50 monsters. Pick up a bunch of notes and skulls, find 22 crystal idols, and enter the secret level. Okay, so there's a bunch of collectibles, and then the rest is just finishing it on the hardest difficulty. I'm guessing all the rest will come naturally, the kills and the steps and that. So, if you've got a VR headset, this might be another easy plat. We'll have to wait and see though, once the game releases and we can get some more impressions on it. Then we've got Clockwork Tales of Glass and Ink. Strange, you'd think it was Clockwork Tales of Glass and Ink, but the colon is here. Anyway, I'm going to just bring up, Xbox achievements. Because this is a game that was out, is already out and has been out for a few months on Xbox. Here we go. Everything's taking ages because I'm recording. So, what's it called? Clockwork. That should be enough. Clockwork Tales of Glass and Ink. Right, this is another point-and-click adventure. But it's quite different. You're not really controlling a character. It's more of almost like a hidden item game where you just have a screen, and it's in first person, and you've got a cursor that you move around the screen, you click on things and then move them about, and it is a point and click adventure, but it's not one, you can't see your character, you don't have moving scenery or anything like that, just a case of going from screen to screen, solving puzzles and all that kind of thing. And I think there is a guide, if you look on this walkthrough, this trophy or achievement guide here on xboxachievements.com. Who's put this together? The Pants Party. Okay. I don't really know the members of Xbox Achievements very well. Anyway, as you can see, it's given a 2 out of 10, 4 to 5 hours, or 3 to 4 if you skip all the dialogue and cutscenes. So this is a potentially super easy platinum that will probably make its way onto my next top 10, or at least the next part 4 of the top 10 series that we've been doing so far. I have a different one planned before that though, which you'll soon find out about. But if we just have a look, I always like to get an impression from the voting threads as well, because is anyone... Okay, no one's voted on this. I think it's been out for a few months, so maybe people just aren't playing it. Yeah, no feedback whatsoever. Although I do find the Xbox site does tend to be a lot quieter than the PlayStation one. Probably partly because there are more people on PlayStation nowadays, and probably partly because maybe people don't care as much about achievements as trophies. But I don't know. Don't hate on me for saying that. I don't know that that's the case, but it's just a possibility. It might be a potential reason for, you know, the forum being a bit quieter on here. If we scroll down, there is a walkthrough actually. Here you go, look. Now I'm not sure if this walkthrough earns you all the trophies along the way, or whether it's just a story walkthrough. But if you look at the trophies themselves, a lot of them seem to be things that you'll do naturally, or maybe like just collectible related. So like finish your first frog puzzle, talk to everyone at the inn, find your first Steam bug and then collect all of them. Then finishing mini games without skipping, or I think there's maybe one without using hints or something. So basically it's a case of like do all the puzzles without skipping anything. There's a few miscellaneous ones. It's quite a short trophy set though, so there isn't a huge amount of sort of missable things. You've got to complete it on expert and the bonus chapter. So there's only a small list, maybe 4 or 5 trophies that these could be just story related, or they could be missable events or characters that you need to help out or speak to or whatever. But it certainly looks like the kind of game that, you know, especially if you want to use this walkthrough here. Yeah, it looks very easy, put it that way. It's going to be a nice simple one. So that's going to be sort of our standout game of the week for you easy trophy hunters that like your easy trophy sets. But as I promised, just as a reminder, that's Clockwork Tales of Glass and Ink. As I promised, we're going to take a look at Final Fantasy 15 here. Now, this looks like a very, very easy trophy set. It's not going to be short, I'm sure. Obviously, Final Fantasy games are usually very long. But as I've said a couple of times, there's been a couple of games this week so far that have got sort of nice, easy to remember trophies where it's just like, right, this whole list is for completing the game, so I don't have to remember them. This whole list is for collectibles, so I'll just get all the collectibles. You don't have to remember loads of, you know, bits and pieces all over the place. And this is one of those games where you literally look through the trophy set and you're like, right, I know what to do. I don't have to look at this guide again or look at this list of trophies ever again, really. I don't think there's anything missable, which makes sense because obviously on a game as big as Final Fantasy, they wouldn't put missable trophies in. It'd be a bit silly if they did. But as you can see here, a whole list of story-related trophies, completing Chapter 14 and all the other ones. Defeated Ifrit on normal, so I'm guessing he's one of the bosses. Obviously, he's one of the summons during all of the Final Fantasy games, or at least a lot of them. I'm not sure if you can capture him and summon him here, but you have to fight him at some point. And then drove the Regalia. Now that's something that's story-related, basically, because I'm guessing you can't progress in the game without driving the car, unless that's something else. But I'm pretty sure that's the vehicle that you drive throughout the whole game. Rode a Chocobo, flew the Regalia Type F. So these are all things like very much story related. A lot of them are just going to pop naturally along our way towards completing the game. Equipped 4 weapon slots. Again, that's something that, you know, if the demo's anything to go by, you basically have, like, you know, you pick up a bunch of weapons and you just put them in your 4 slots. And I think that's something that's going to pop pretty early in the game. Collected 13 Royal Arms, not sure what that is, whether they're placed in the world or maybe they're drops from enemies. But here you've got learn your first ability, activated 20 ability nodes and 50. So again, they're all just grouped up. Right, and then you've got improving all these different skills: photography, survival, fishing, and cooking once, and then you have to max them out as well. So these might be the grindy trophies, I'm not sure. These are going to be, the things that you want to try and remember to work on whilst you're playing through the game. Because I'm guessing, you don't want to get to the end of the game and then think, crumbs, I've got to do tons of fishing to, level that up. It's the kind of stuff that you can do a bit by bit as you go through the game. So you want to make sure to keep leveling up. I think survival, I'm not sure how that differs from cooking, but I do remember you can kind of cook the meat and stuff you get from enemies. And they can, that gives you different stats and things like that. Photography, just keep doing anything that relates to those 4 stats. And you'll be fine. Then we've got a bunch of other stuff. It's just a case of doing something once. So perform your first point warp suspension, which is where you kind of, you launch to one of the grapple points up high and you just kind of hang there. And then you can set up an attack from above. Issued your first ally command, performed your first blindside link, initiated your first link strike. All of these, called forth the armiger for the first time, crafted a spell for the first time, used magic for the first time, summoned one of the 6 for the first time. I'm guessing, one of the summons that you can call to your side to help you in combat, in battle. Played Justice Monsters 5. That's a game within, I forget what kind of game it was. I did look at it earlier. I'm not sure if it's a card game. No, it's pinball, I think. I think it's a pinball game. And this is something you can actually get on mobile or on like your iPad or whatever. And you can play it, you can play it on a mobile device separately as a separate game. But it is in the game itself. A bit like how they're bringing the card game from The Witcher, bring it out as a separate game as well. That's obviously just a case of playing it for the first time. So all of these things, they're all saying do something once, and you don't have to win anything. You don't have to achieve a certain level or whatever. It's just a case of doing a bunch of things that are going to naturally be done throughout the game. You just got to do them once and you'll pop a trophy. So this looks like the kind of trophy set where you're going to be popping loads of trophies near the beginning, and then steadily throughout the game for each chapter you'll be getting one. And then it will be a case of maybe, once you've fully leveled up your 4 skills and your characters, then you can go off and fight the couple of bosses that are involved. The one thing we do need to do is completing 80 side quests. So I don't know if that's all of them. I don't think it is, because it would probably say if it was. But we need to complete 80 side quests. So that's it, basically. Complete your first hunt and defeat the Adamantoise. Now, that's a gold trophy, so I'm guessing he's going to be a super hard boss. That's the only trophy that looks to me like it's probably going to be relatively difficult. So we've got the Adamantoise. I'm guessing Ifrit. I don't think he was a gold trophy. Have we got any other? Oh yeah, okay. So defeat Ifrit on normal difficulty. Maybe there's a... I'm wondering actually if there is an easy difficulty, because it says normal, and that kind of strikes me as meaning that there's maybe normal and hard. But the fact that it says beat him on normal, and it doesn't say that for the Adamantoise, kind of implies that maybe there's a lower difficulty below that. So it might be that for all the kind of newcomers to Final Fantasy, because I think Square are trying to cater for new players, it looks as though maybe they've made a easy setting for people to get into the game, people who might be a bit overwhelmed by it otherwise. So maybe you can defeat the Adamantoise on easy because, it doesn't say anything about normal. Or maybe it's... I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a case of having normal and hard and no easy mode, because there would be no point in saying defeat Ifrit on normal, would there? If there was no lower difficulty, then they wouldn't bother saying it, because it would just be a case of of defeating him on any difficulty. So that almost guarantees that there is going to be a lower setting. Now, I don't know whether you'll be able to choose easy at the beginning and then you'll be locked into that mode, or whether you can swap it for each battle, or maybe you can change it in the menus. But I'm hoping, for those of you who do end up playing on easy, I'm hoping that, it's a difficulty setting that you can change throughout the game. Because obviously you don't want to complete the game and then get to the point where you can fight Ifrit, or at whatever stage in the game you do fight him, and then find out that you can't change the difficulty and you have to start all over again. But I'm sure, I don't think they do that. I think it would be a case of being able to swap it. Because it's a bit like Final Fantasy 13 2. There was a boss on that required you, to beat him on normal or hard or something. And it was something that you could change on the fly. So I'm guessing that's going to be the case. So if you can play this on easy, the majority of it at least, then that's going to be even easier, even more straightforward. It looks like such an easy trophy set. But it is cool. Obviously the difficulty comes in actually just playing the game. The trophies themselves are straightforward as long as you can finish the game, and you'll be able to, obviously. The last two bosses might be a little bit tricky, I'm sure. But it looks fun. Some easy trophy sets are they're really easy and it makes them boring because there's no challenge. But with this, the challenge will be just, leveling up and playing the game and doing all the side quests and everything. But you won't have to be constantly looking at the trophy list because it's just nice and straightforward to remember, complete the game. A bunch of them you don't even have to think about because they'll just be popping for, when you do a certain action for the first time or drive a vehicle, whatever. All you'll need to really think about is completing side quests, but you won't need a guide for that, I'm sure. I don't think you have to complete all of them. You can literally just complete 80, so just complete any that you come across. If you find any difficult, maybe move on. I'm sure there'll be free roam at the end of the game. So yeah, this looks real easy, guys. It looks a lot of fun as well. I'm hoping it is. The demos I played haven't been great, but I think it's because they were holding back a lot of, they didn't give you the opportunity to find new weapons or learn any interesting abilities or anything like that. They just had the very basic kind of battle structure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this, and I don't know, I may do some streaming or let's plays of it. I'm not sure. But there you have it, guys. That's this week's Trophy Hunters update. Just to go back through, really the only standout stuff from this week has been Final Fantasy 15. Looks super easy, and has 2 trophy sets, so you could probably import a foreign version, whichever version happens to stack, and get it twice if you enjoy it. And then Clockwork Tales of Glass and Ink. Now this isn't out yet, but keep your eye on the store because it is an easy platinum. Despite not being released yet, as long as the trophies are the same as the achievements on the Xbox, then it's going to be a straightforward platinum again. And we've got a couple of potentially easy, maybe VR games. And then Destroy All Humans 1 and 2, we mentioned earlier. The first one's nice and easy, about 10-15 hours. Rolling Bob looks like a laugh. Yeah. That's pretty much it for today, guys. I don't think there's been a huge amount that I've been playing this week, at least not on my account. What have I been playing this week? I get through so many games on the trophy service that I often forget. I replayed Shadow of Mordor for one of my customers, and it was on the PSVR, not the VR, the PS4 Pro, and it looks amazing. It's one of those games that has been kind of upped in quality, the graphics, and it looks like a modern game. It doesn't look like a 2-year-old game anymore, and it's amazing. I can't say enough good things about Shadow of Mordor. If you've not played it, you may assume that the great reviews it got were just out of surprise from the reviewers, thinking, oh wow, it's actually better than we expected, so we'll give it a high score. That's not the case. It's an amazing game in its own right. Even if it had been the most hyped and most built up game ever, it would have still lived up to that hype because it's phenomenal. It's so good. There's so much depth to it, but it's so intuitive as well. It plays amazingly. If you've not played Shadow of Mordor, just go out and play it. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's got the best AI I've ever seen in a game. The AI system, which is the thing that got it all the praise, it's so intricate, it's so brilliant. It's not just a case of the enemies, the way they behave. It's a case of the enemy structure, like the hierarchy. And you can actually use that and manipulate it, and you can sort of take control of enemies with your mind control powers, and then you can send them to either sort of try and sort of become a bodyguard for a higher level enemy, or to betray someone they're already a bodyguard of, or to fight against someone else like another captain or whatever. And to be honest, I could talk all day about it, and a lot of what I'm saying probably isn't making sense. But yeah, it just, like, I could stay here all day. I'm thinking about maybe doing a series of videos where I talk about some of the games that you guys may have missed out on or may not have played. Not necessarily things like Shadow of Mordor, but like older games. Yeah, so maybe over the next year or two, Shadow of Mordor might crop up. But just play it, honestly, guys. Literally one of the greatest games ever made. So that's one of the games I spent a lot of time on. I've been doing the Becomes the Master trophy for Titanfall for dozens of my customers, or dozens of new customers, really. It's been the most requested trophy I've ever had, which is interesting. Oh, and the other thing, which I actually, when I was checking something on my iPad a moment ago, I had a message from one of my PSN friends saying thank you for the guide on, what's it called, Mile High Club for Modern Warfare Remastered. Now, that's a game that does have a generally easy platinum, but there's one trophy. The veteran playthrough's tricky, but anyone can get through it, really. But the one trophy which many of you will remember from the PS3, or no, sorry, it didn't have trophies on the PS3, but you'll remember the mission from the PS3. And if you were on Xbox at the time, you'll remember the achievement, because it did have achievements on the 360. But it is called Mile High Club, Skydive Safety on Veteran difficulty. It's like an extra epilogue mission at the end of the game you have to do on Veteran difficulty. You've got 1 minute, there's enemies everywhere, and it's really, really difficult. You have to make your way through a plane and get to a hostage at the end. And yeah, it's a very difficult trophy. A lot of people are struggling. But thanks to Bub Wright on the PlayStationTrophies.org forum, he pointed out a glitch that you can use, and it prompted me to make a video guide for it. Many of you will have seen it already. I only put it up, I think, yesterday. Might have been the day before. It's been up for like a day, maybe two. It's got like, I think 800 views already. And it's definitely something that if you know people that are playing Call of Duty Remastered, it's something that a lot of people are struggling with. So let them know about the guide, pass it on to them, maybe tweet about it, because it's been getting a lot of likes. You know, a lot of people commenting saying save their life or whatever. People take trophies extremely seriously. But yeah, I just thought I'd point that out. A lot of you will have seen the video already, but if you're playing the game, definitely use the glitch, because it makes it so much easier. And I'm really happy to find it, because it means that I can offer the game on my trophy service, which before I was kind of reluctant to do so. But I've probably shot myself in the foot by doing that guide, to be honest, because I'll get less orders for it through the trophy service. But YouTube channel comes first. Anyway, was there anything else? I think we talked about Monster Jam Crush It. Obviously, that's appeared on one of the top 10 easiest platinum lists. I did play it. I think I mentioned this last week, but it's not a good game. It's very clunky. The controls are awful, and the handling and everything. Don't pay a lot of money for this. But it only takes about 2 hours. I took a break during that time. It takes about 2 hours. And the rest is, I finished off Uncharted. I think I'd done that last week. Yeah, so not really much else to talk about on my personal account, but I've got a massive list of games. In fact, over Black Friday, I picked up Dirt Rally off the PlayStation Store, as well as Lego Star Wars Force Awakens, and I bought the Batman Telltale game on PS3. I already had it on PS4, but I picked that up. And then I went out on a bit of a spending spree. I've already got a bunch of games still in their shrink wrap. I've got the Ezio collection waiting to be played, and Tomb Raider, obviously Final Fantasy 15, and dozens of other games that are like less recent. But I also picked up over the Black Friday holidays, I picked up, Mafia 3, Watch Dogs 2, and two games that I've been really looking out for cheap prices for, which were Dragon Quest Builders and World of Final Fantasy. They both look really awesome, both look really adorable, kind of Disney-esque, quite kind of childish, but lovable and nostalgic. So I'm really looking forward to playing them when I finally get a chance to. And so hopefully over the following weeks, I'll have a lot of games to give you feedback on, because I haven't really had much that I've played personally over the last month or so because I've been so busy with the trophy service. But obviously, as we get closer to Christmas, a lot of people are spending all their money on presents and things, and so they're not going to have as much to be able to spend on trophies, which kind of gives me a chance to catch up with some of my YouTube content that I've wanted to do, and also be able to actually do some gaming of my own. And that will mean that I can let you guys know what these trophies are like and kind of make this weekly show a bit more interesting, a bit more diverse, talking about some of the already released games that you might be sort of umming and ahhing about buying yourself. Okay, anyway, there we go, guys. Thank you very much for watching, as always. I'll catch you next week for next week's edition of the Trophy Hunters update. During this week, I'll probably be putting up some more content. I do have a top 10 on the way for the easiest free PlayStation Platinums, or like PS4 Platinums that have been free on PlayStation Plus at some point or other. So that's going to be interesting, and that will hopefully give your wallets a rest during this expensive time of year. But as always, guys, thanks for all the support. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all soon. All right, cheers, guys.